Hey guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Noob to Nodewar, the road to 400 gear score. Last episode, we discussed what to do in the first couple of days as a new player, some traps and pitfalls new players can fall into, as well as some tips and tricks that new players can use to make their first few days a little easier. In today's episode, I'll be discussing how to level, how to gain silver as you level, and what to do with that silver. So anyways, let's jump right into it. So, leveling in Black Desert involves more than just killing monsters. It involves killing a lot of monsters. There are huge amounts of monsters. Also, thanks for some of my commenters for mentioning that there are actually a few quests that do give experience. There's one very well-known quest that I've done myself that involves 3 otters on the top of a fortress. We'll get to that in a later episode, but on the top of a fortress near Sawsons for anyone that wants to do the quest now, and it gives a rather large chunk of experience, especially towards 56. You will need a few blackstones to do so, but it's very worthwhile to do, and it involves killing more monsters, so you're getting experience no matter what. But killing monsters is pretty much the only way to gain any meaningful experience in Black Desert. You need to kill many monsters to level up, starting around level 50, and even before level 50, you will want to spend at least between 10 to 30 minutes in various zones killing monsters to get certain experience caps. Now, there are 3 fundamental rules or good tips that you should follow when grinding. Tip number 1, don't go for solo monsters. If there's a single monster just kind of standing there off on their own, minding their own business, just ignore them or hit them once and then let them follow you towards another group of monsters. This is because most of the skills in Black Desert are AoE skills or area of effect, which means if you're using a skill, it can hit multiple monsters at once. So if you're using a skill on a single monster, you could be hitting 5 or 6 monsters at the same time with that skill and doing equal damage to all of them. What this means is, if you spend the amount of time killing one monster that could be spent killing 6 monsters, your time is being spent much less effectively and you're gaining less experience per hour. You're also getting less silver per hour because you're not killing as many monsters. Tip number 2, try to focus on a few key skills. You'll notice that I'm only really using about 3 or 4 core skills. I've got Carver, which is the quick, swift upward slash. I've got Dragon Bite, which is the fast forward stab. Then I've got Rising Storm, which is the giant AoE around me. And finally, I've got Chase, which lets me move in between packs of monsters. Various classes will have different skills, but as a pre-awakened player, you're free to move your skill points around and kind of experiment with the skills you want to use, find out what works for you, and discard the ones that don't. As a general rule of thumb though, you should ignore kicking skills, which all generally use the F button, as they are not good for damage and you don't need the crowd control abilities early on because you're just going to be killing the monsters very quickly. But kind of focusing on these early skills is good because early on especially, you have a very limited number of skill points. You will oftentimes find yourself at a level where you can learn a new skill, but you are unable to because you don't have the skill points available because you've invested in other skills, and you've got to uninvest in certain skills so you can invest in your core skills. So focusing on just 3 or 4 key skills is probably the best way early on to allow you to kill monsters as fast as possible. Even later on, you're going to want to focus on certain key skills such as your awakening skills and 1 or 2 really good absolute skills, as skill points are a valuable resource, and until extreme late game, you're just not going to have enough of them to get all the passives and all the abilities that you want to use. The third and final tip is kind of an extension of the first tip, and that is kill monsters that you can kill efficiently. Don't kill monsters that you take a while to kill, as this will also lower your experience and silver per hour. If you can kill a single pack of monsters of a certain type, let's call them bandits, in a minute, or you can kill 5 packs of lower tier thieves in the same minute, but the bandits give 500 experience, but the 5 packs of thieves each give 150 experience, you're only earning 500 experience for the 1 pack of bandits, but you'll earn 750 experience for the 5 packs of thieves. This is kind of true for all grinding. You want to grind as efficiently as possible, which means finding the monsters that you can kill as quickly as possible that are the hardest monsters you can currently kill. If you're having trouble killing monsters in a certain zone because either they're doing too much damage to you or you're taking too long to kill them because you don't have enough accuracy or AP, try going back to a slightly lower zone and killing monsters there until you're high enough level to kill the monsters in the next zone more efficiently, or until you've earned enough silver to upgrade your gear to accomplish the same effect as leveling up. You don't want to waste your efficiency by killing single monsters, and you also don't want to waste your efficiency by taking too long to kill a monster, so that you can kind of maximize your experience and silver per hour. Now, speaking of silver, silver is very important in Black Desert. Gear is pretty much the number one in Black Desert. While skill is very important to have, gear will determine the fights much more often than skill, especially once you get to higher levels of gear score and start crushing on lower level players. Now, that's not to say skill is a bad thing to have in Black Desert. Skill is actually the primary thing to have if you have a fight between two equal geared players, but getting to higher and higher levels of gear score makes it much easier to crush lower level players and much easier to fight back against higher level players that, no matter how much skill you had, would have been almost impossible to defeat beforehand. So, as a new player, earning silver is fairly difficult. Now, obviously you can earn silver from selling the drops you get from grinding, but a lot of new players are kind of confused as what to do with the various drops. So, there are three kind of primary types of drops when grinding. You've got your Japtem, which are just dropped items that cannot be sold for, well, they can be sold, but they can't be sold to other players. They don't really have any purpose other than to be sold for silver and gotten rid of. This is also called trash loot. Your second are turn-ins. Turn-ins are kind of like trash loot, except instead of just selling to a vendor, what you want to do is find some specific NPCs that will give you much more silver for a turn-in than you would get by just selling it to an average general vendor or armor or any other NPC in the game. And then the final loot is usable loot. Now, this usable loot can be further divided into multiple subcategories, but really there's blackstones, there's weapons and armor, and then there are kind of useful drops that don't fall into either category, but are useful all the same, such as scroll drops, ancient fragment drops, or quest drops. So the first drops, trash loot, that's the easiest. You just sell them to any random vendor that you find. Boom, you're done. The second drops, the turn-ins, take a bit more. Sometimes the turn-ins are right next to the grinding spot. For example, if you're grinding Wandering Rogues later on, you'll notice that Wandering Rogues and Mains are both right next to Tarif, where the turn-in NPC is. But if you're grinding Manshaws, you'll notice that there are two different turn-ins for the ancient corrupt shards that they drop. And these turn-ins, one is really right next to Manshaws, and that's in the city of Trent. But there's another turn-in that actually offers more silver for the turn-in than the one in Trent, but that's all the way back near Heidel at the Western Guard Post. So because Manshaws are so easy to kill, what I'll recommend doing there is you'll probably just want to save all your drops on your mount and go back to the Western Guard Post. But later on, you'll kind of want to make the choice on if you want to store all your drops and go back to wherever the best turn-in for silver is, or if you want to turn in your drops for slightly less silver, but avoid the hassle of having to go way back. Turn-ins are probably one of the biggest ways of earning just pure silver in Black Desert, because you don't need to kind of have the dilemma of do you sell them or do you keep them, like you do with the third category of items, weapons, armor, accessories, and usable items. Now, this third category of drops is the hardest to deal with, as you want these items, but you also want silver. So, weapons and armor can usually just be sold directly to the marketplace. For the most part, you don't need any extra weapons or armor, unless it's the armor set or weapon that you're currently using, in which case, if you want, you can keep it for repairing the max durability of the item when you fail on enhancements. The more difficult choice comes when you get enhancement items, such as blackstones or scrolls that can be used to farm for memory fragments, or possibly other items such as this. Especially accessories, because if you want to make an accessory, you want to keep accessories, and not have to pay the 15% market tax that you have to sell accessories. But at the same time, you also want silver. So for accessories, I'll recommend just sell the accessories. Enhancing accessories is a huge pain that, especially as a new player, you do not want to have to go through right now. Enhancing accessories is just don't do it. Trust me on this. Enhancing accessories sucks. Now, blackstones and fragments or scroll shards are kind of a separate matter, and these are the most difficult to deal with. That's because everyone uses blackstones and memory fragments unless they have absolutely sworn off enhancing and snipe all their items from the marketplace. As a new player, what I would suggest doing is keep weapon and armor blackstones. Weapon blackstones used to enhance your main hand weapon and your offhand weapon. And for armor blackstones, use them on your armor. However, once your armor and weapon are around plus 15, you can either continue to save these blackstones and keep them in your storage for fail stacking or getting other items plus 15, such as Awakening Weapon, or you can sell them to raise funds and buy yourself duo or even just pry or try gear later on. Blackstones are very expensive, and while a lot of players will recommend saving them to enhance for yourself, sniping items from the marketplace, especially as a new player, is very easy to do. There are a lot of duo and try green pieces of gear on the marketplace, as well as plus 15s and prize, and they're not very expensive. Selling the expensive blackstones can allow you to raise funds much faster than just storing them in your storage would. For example, I personally have almost 1.6 billion silver in just enhancing materials in my Velia storage. So these enhancement materials, they do add up, and they do add up to quite a chunk of change. Now, acquiring silver outside of grinding is a topic that can be debated kind of endlessly. There are lots of different ways to do it. There are AFK methods, passive methods, active methods. Grinding is probably the best active method to gain silver and probably has the highest silver per hour. But outside of grinding, because you can't be grinding every second of every day, there are lots of other methods to gain silver. As a new player, I would recommend simply AFK fishing at the Velia hotspot. This is very easy to do. You just buy yourself a Balanos rod, enhance it to +1 or +2. In fact, you don't even need to enhance it at first. You won't have enough inventory slots to really need to deal with enhancing it. So just buy yourself a Balanos rod, go to the Velia hotspot, clear out your inventory first just by putting it in the storage, and just fish. Whenever you're going AFK for more than 3 or 4 hours, just run to the Velia hotspot, plunk yourself down with your fishing rod, and fish. Make sure your durability is repaired to maximum at the blacksmith before you do so, but this will allow you to earn several 100,000 to several million silver every day just completely AFK, because you can sell all the fish you get to the trade manager, and you can sell all the ancient crystal relic fragments that you get on the marketplace. Now, a lot of players might say, oh, don't sell these fragments on the marketplace, you need them for memory fragments. But as a new player, you're not worried about memory fragments because boss gear is fairly far in the future. In order to buy boss gear, I'd recommend having at least 300 to 400 million silver worth of items first. And 300 to 400 million items worth of silver isn't a lot to a late game player, but as an early player, that is a ton of money. And selling these ancient relic crystal fragments, which sell for up to 1 million silver each, is a very good way to earn money as a new player. You might get 1 or 2 a day from fishing, or more if you're lucky, less if you're unlucky, but on average you will start to see them, and it's a very good way to earn money as a new player. The other AFK methods kind of involve a little cash up investment, so I don't want to mention them just yet, but next episode I will go more in depth on how to earn money as a new player outside of just grinding or very simple AFK fishing. Anyways guys, that's it for episode 2. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe if you liked it. Mention in the comments anything that you liked or disliked or that you think I could improve for next episode. I'm reading all the comments and I'm really glad to see that you guys seem to be enjoying the series. Anyways guys, thanks for watching and have a good one.